Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Festus and today we're talking about what programming language should you learn first. But first, let's see my intro. This is a topic that everyone tends to share their opinion about, especially on the internet. When you go to type this particular thing on Google, you'll see thousands of responses, thousands of opinions about this. As though there's a common consensus that you need to start learning programming with Python. I don't really think that is actually perfect. I don't really think that particular opinion or advice really works well in every case. So I'm going to take you through a couple of reasons why I think it's not true, and as well point out my own point of view on this particular topic. So let's jump straight in. All right. I already established that it is common when you search on the internet, everyone is talking about how Python is easy to learn as the first programming language. That's true. If you have the time to jump from one to the other, then that really works well in all cases. But here's the thing, unless you've decided that you want to be a web developer or you want to work with data analysis, then that really works cool. Because then after learning, you're jumping straight into using Python to do what you want to do. But if you want to do something else totally that requires another programming language, then I think that is just a waste of your time. Although it's going to help you, get the whole programming knowledge and all that, but then there's still the fact that you need to switch from Python to another one. So I don't really think that is the case in every case. So there are three questions you need to ask yourself before you pick a programming language. The first one is, what is the market like where you live or where you decide to work? The second one is, what is the future of the language that you've chosen based on the research you made for the first one? And then the third one is, what actually is your plan? What are you going to use this programming for? If you've decided to go on this path, then I'm guessing you already did a bit of research and you already know that there are lots of platforms out there that solutions are supposed to be built differently for. So we've got mobile, web, desktop, video games. Even up until recently, we have smartwatches, smart TVs and all that, which are pretty much some of them still based off the development on the basis of these other ones. But we're not going to dive into a lot of details with regards to that one. But the one thing that you should bear in mind is, if you decide that you want to be a mobile developer, and you watch on the internet that Python is actually a first language to start with, that isn't really a good idea, based on the fact that for you to actually learn Python, you need to give it a decent 4 to 6 weeks before you pretty much understand what is going on. That is the 4 to 6 weeks you would have given to something that you actually want. So instead of going to Python to waste your time, you could just dive straight into, say, Java, Kotlin, or whatever you decide to choose for the platform you decide to provide solutions for. That being said, I'm just going to run through a couple of them and give you, the best programming languages that actually work for each of these platforms. The one you choose is still going to be based off of the first one, the market, the secondly, the future of that particular language. Now let's talk about these platforms and some of the programming languages you should be looking at if you've decided which one you're going to focus on. So you want to learn programming, you've made up your mind and you've decided that you want to go with web development. Well, that isn't really all. You need to make up your mind which particular type of web developer you want to be. As we know, there are three types. So you're either a front-end developer, a back-end developer, or a full-stack developer. So basically, the front-end developer is focused on the UI, the user interface, which is what anyone who uses the application wants to see, anyone who uses the application interacts with. So the back-end developer pretty much codes anything that happens behind the scene, anything that has to do with the data manipulation, authentication, and all of those. Whereas the full-stack developer is someone who knows both. Now, the other two, which is front-end and back-end, is something you can, jump straight into. Whereas full stack, you need to start with one because it has to do with both of them, both what happens behind and what the user actually sees. A lot of people advise that it is advisable. A lot of people say it's advisable to jump with front end since it's way easier, but I don't really also think that is the case, because for most of us, we're more analytical than we actually are, like, creative with regards to design wise. I personally hate anything that has to do with graphics, which is why I went with back-end development first. Now, with front-end development, you're looking at HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. There are no two ways about that. You can't skip any of this. You have to do these three first. Before then, you can go deeper into choosing stuff like libraries, framework, and all of those. Now, with back-end development, that's a bit streamlined. So we have Python, we have C#, we've got Java, we've got even JavaScript. So which one you decide to choose amongst all of this depends on your market. But being honest, I think JavaScript is actually killing it everywhere in the world right now. So that would be my best advice to you now if you want to actually learn a programming language for the web. Moving on, full stack development ties these other two together. So basically you're picking one from front end, one from back end, and you got your decision already. So moving on, let's go into mobile development. With mobile development, it's a bit tricky. Reason being that there are different operating systems out there with regards to mobile. So we're talking about Apple phones which run iOS, and Android phones which run Android operating system, like it's called. So the way the applications for these different operating systems are built are different. So you've got people coding with Swift, which is a programming language that allows you to build applications for iPhones, and then you have obviously Kotlin and also Java, which is a bit older than Kotlin, but both of them are used for building applications for Android. I don't actually think anyone uses Java anymore, probably just few people, because everyone has moved to Kotlin since it's a better alternative. But up until recently, there are also options called cross-platform. So basically it means you use one programming language to build solutions for these two. But with this one, it's a bit tricky. Why is it tricky? You have to learn one programming language first. You need to learn one programming language, and then you need to understand both of these platforms. You need to understand how Android functions and how iOS functions for you to be able to, tie both together. So my advice for you in this particular one is, if you're starting out and you want to be a mobile developer, just pick one. Start with either iOS or Android. When you're done with that, then you can, pick out the basics of the other and then figure out some cross-platform way of doing things. That is, if you're interested in even going cross-platform. It's not really something I think I would do, since I love building things for iPhones. So I don't think I'll ever go for a cross-platform solution. So moving on, game development. Over the years, there's been only two that has been dominating the industry, and it's simply C++ and C#. Again, you want to check the market where you live to see which one to go with. We still have desktop development. Now with desktop development, we still have Windows, iOS, and of course we still have cross-platform, because like I said, that's something that is really dominating the industry now, especially based on the fact that we have multiple operating systems, and there are people out there trying to make sure there are easier ways of us doing these things. So in this case, you have options like still C#, which is a Microsoft technology. It's a Microsoft programming language solely created for building Microsoft solutions, which one of them is the Windows, which we already know. Now the second one is of course Swift, which can be used to build solutions for MacBooks and all. And the last one is cross-platform, JavaScript using Electron. So lastly, the one thing I would want to talk about is data analysis, data machine learning, and all of those. The reason why this is added is because this is something that many people don't even look at when they talk about software development, because it is still, you could actually still, fit it into the field, because it's actually part of the field. So with machine learning, there are lots of options. There's C#, there's JavaScript, there is Python, and all of this. But like I said, pretty much every language you pick now can do almost everything. With C#, you can build mobile applications, web application, desktop, machine learning, same as JavaScript. With Python, you can do a lot. But in the industry, there is a way it's structured. There are programming languages known best for doing a particular thing. If you would want to go for machine learning, trust me, Python is the best way to go. If you want to go for game development, as of now, C# is the best way to go. If you want to go for web development today, and even mobile in most cases, JavaScript is the way for you to go. So my advice for you is ask yourself these questions. First, I'll just, assume. So let's say you want to be a mobile developer. So one, you've checked the industry. Obviously, one way or the other, you would see things like React Native and Flutter. React Native being the one dominating, and that is solely JavaScript. In this case, you would want to learn JavaScript. The reason why this is a good idea is because it gives you the opportunity to actually learn a language that you can use for both web and mobile solutions. So, simply summing up everything I'm saying now, you need to ask yourself these 3 questions. You need to do a research. Don't just look at what is easy, because at the end of the day, easy doesn't really work in every case. So what if you learn Python and after learning Python, that doesn't really work, and then you still have to, it just doesn't make any sense. So pick up one programming language that is streamlined and focused on the particular thing that you want to do. And that's it for today, guys. This is just me sharing my opinions. I think you can tell that this wasn't scripted. This is just me telling you what I feel. And that will be all. So see you next week.